Republic is reeling under back-to-back strikes by what he calls American Zionist aggression. He goes on to say that Muslims worldwide and the governments of these Islamic countries must...
There are more than 50 Muslim countries in the world, nearly 2 billion people. That should make it one of the most powerful blocs on earth. But every time tensions rise between Iran, Israel, and the West, something unexpected happens. Iran stands almost completely alone. No major Muslim power steps in, no unified response emerges. And this raises an even bigger question. Even countries with significant military power, including those with nuclear weapons, stay out of it. So why doesn't a country like Pakistan step in? Why doesn't the Muslim world back Iran? To understand this, we need to break a common assumption. The Muslim world is not a single unified bloc. The idea of a single unified Muslim world is powerful, but it is also misleading. In reality, Muslim-majority countries are spread across different regions, cultures, and political systems. From North Africa to Southeast Asia, these countries have vastly different priorities, alliances, and strategic goals. Some are monarchies, some are republics, some are closely aligned with Western powers, others are not. Instead of acting as one bloc, they function more like independent players in a complex geopolitical system. And that means their decisions are driven not by shared identity alone, but by national interests. One of the most important underlying factors shaping these interests is the divide between Sunni and Shia Islam. Around 85 to 90% of Muslims worldwide are Sunni, while roughly 10 to 15% are Shia. Iran is the largest Shia majority country and has positioned itself as a central political and ideological leader for Shia communities. But most other Muslim-majority countries are predominantly Sunni. This divide has historical roots going back over 1,000 years, but it still influences modern geopolitics. In many Sunni-majority countries, Iran's regional ambitions are viewed with caution, not just as political expansion, but as an increase in Shia influence. This creates a layer of mistrust that shapes alliances across the region. But religion alone does not explain the full picture. There is also a major geopolitical rivalry at play. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates see themselves as key regional powers. At the same time, Iran is actively expanding its strategic reach. Over the past 2 decades, it has built a network of influence across the Middle East. This includes ties in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. In Lebanon, Iran supports Hezbollah. In Syria, it backed the government during the civil war. In Iraq, it has strong influence through political groups and militias. And in Yemen, it has supported the Houthi movement. From Iran's perspective, these alliances increase its regional power and create strategic depth. But for many Gulf states, this looks very different. It is seen as a steady expansion of Iranian influence, one that could eventually surround or pressure them. This creates a security dilemma. As Iran expands, other regional powers feel threatened and respond by trying to contain it. Instead of aligning with Iran, countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE often take the opposite approach. They work to counter its influence through diplomacy, alliances, and indirect conflicts. This has led to a series of proxy conflicts across the region, where both sides support opposing groups without engaging in direct war. Over time, this rivalry has become one of the defining features of modern Middle Eastern geopolitics. And in that environment, cooperation between Iran and many Arab states becomes far more difficult. At the same time, external alliances play a critical role in shaping decisions across the region. Several Gulf countries maintain close security relationships with the United States. There are American military bases and defense agreements across countries like Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. These partnerships provide military protection, advanced weapon systems, intelligence support, and strategic coordination. For many governments, especially monarchies, These alliances are not just about external defense. They are also closely tied to internal stability and regime security. Many of these states operate in complex domestic environments, where maintaining political control and stability is a top priority. Strong relationships with the United States help reinforce that stability, both through military backing and broader political support. At the same time, these countries are deeply integrated into the global economic system. Their sovereign wealth funds, investments, and financial assets are heavily connected to Western markets. From real estate and infrastructure to technology and finance, a significant portion of their long-term economic strategy is tied to global, especially Western, economic networks. This creates an additional layer of incentive. A direct confrontation with the United States or its allies would not only pose security risks, but also threaten economic interests, global investments, and financial stability. As a result, aligning with Iran in a conflict against Western powers becomes extremely costly, not just strategically, but economically and politically. So instead, most countries choose to maintain their existing security partnerships and avoid actions that could destabilize both their external alliances and internal balance of power. Beyond security, economic realities also play a major role in shaping foreign policy decisions. Many Middle Eastern countries rely heavily on oil and gas exports as the backbone of their economies. These industries are not just about production. They depend on stable global demand, predictable prices, and secure trade routes. A large portion of the world's energy supply passes through critical choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. This makes regional stability essential, not just for these countries, but for the global economy. Any large-scale conflict in the region could disrupt these routes, damage infrastructure, and create sudden shocks in global energy markets. Even the threat of conflict can drive volatility, causing oil prices to spike, investments to slow down, and economic planning to become uncertain. For governments whose revenues depend heavily on energy exports, this creates a clear priority. Stability is not optional. It is essential for maintaining economic growth, funding national budgets, and sustaining long-term development plans. In recent years, many of these countries have also been trying to diversify their economies, investing in sectors like tourism, finance, and technology. These plans depend heavily on a stable environment that attracts foreign investment and global partnerships. Entering a major regional conflict would put all of this at risk. It could scare away investors, disrupt long-term projects, and weaken economic confidence. As a result, many countries prefer to avoid direct confrontation and instead focus on maintaining stability, protecting trade flows, and securing their economic future. And then there is the risk of escalation. Conflicts in the Middle East rarely stay contained. They tend to expand, drawing in multiple countries and creating long-term instability. For many governments, the possibility of a wider regional war is a major concern. A single confrontation could quickly spiral into something much larger. This would threaten not just international relations but internal stability as well. As a result, many countries prefer to avoid direct involvement in high-risk confrontations. Strategic caution often outweighs ideological alignment. At the same time, many governments in the region are shifting toward more pragmatic foreign policies. While Iran often frames its approach around resistance to Western influence, others are focused on economic development, global trade, and technological partnerships. In recent years, some countries have even pursued normalization and cooperation with Israel. These decisions reflect a broader shift towards strategic pragmatism. Rather than engaging in ideological conflicts, many governments are prioritizing stability and long-term growth. This creates a clear contrast with Iran's own approach. Iran's foreign policy is deeply shaped by the legacy of the 1979 revolution. It presents itself as a state that challenges Western influence and supports resistance movements across the region. This approach has helped Iran build influence in certain areas, but it also places Iran on a different strategic path compared to many of its neighbors. While Iran emphasizes ideological positioning, others focus on balance, diplomacy, and economic priorities. And that difference creates a gap that explains why alignment does not always happen. So the reason Iran often appears to stand alone is not simple. It is not just about religion, and it is not just about politics. It is the result of multiple overlapping forces, regional rivalries, global alliances, economic priorities, and the constant risk of escalation. Bring it together. Together, these factors shape the decisions of governments across the Muslim world. And in the end, they lead to a clear reality. The Muslim world is not a single unified bloc. It is a complex network of competing interests. And in that system, even shared identity does not guarantee shared action.